Hello, my name is Susanne Evans and welcome to the Change Stories podcast. This is a podcast for people who are interested in creating change, whether that is within organisations or for individuals. In each podcast episode, I will have a conversation with someone about their work to share their story. Each story and conversation will provide you with ideas and inspiration for your own organisation or for you personally. To find out more about each episode, including further reading, and to share your change stories, go to www.changestories.co.uk. Hi, and welcome to the Change Stories podcast. My guest today is Mark Green, the CEO and founder of Change Rebellion. With over 20 years' experience, Mark has recently launched a change management service where honesty meets empathy and change management returns to its practical roots to support your workplace transformations. Mark, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you. Hello. Really
I'm
nice
so happy to have you here to talk to. We met a little while ago, and when we met, the seeds of Change Rebellion were forming in your mind.
Yes.
You weren't yet ready to talk about it publicly, but now it's gone live.
Yes.
When did it go live?
It was only a few months ago, September now, I think. I think it was something that I'd probably had in my mind for a very long time. Maybe a year or so, but not done anything with it. And then circumstance change, as they often do in people's lives. And I obviously had to ask permission from the boss. My wife, she said, yes, of course. And then, I went for it, big and bold.
I love everything about the launch and your website and everything. I know a big part of it for you is creating something that feels different. And I think that just comes through loud and clear in everything that you've done so far.
Thank you. Yeah, absolutely. It was really important to me that I stood out from the crowd because we do have quite a saturated industry. There's an awful lot of change people out there. So I purposefully went big, brash, loud, different, and I think hopefully what comes across is fun as well, because that is so integral to everything that we do. I could be one of those people that says, I'm going to be different, I'm going to do it different, but actually the proof is in the pudding. And so hence the different look of the website, something, and I say this all the time, I could be wrong, something I think is sexier. And certainly the things that I comment and post and the freedom I give people to comment and post in the business page as well is different. It's just very different.
It's good. And I think you're right. A lot of people call themselves, disruptors and all this sort of thing, and actually aren't. And I find that very annoying. I like the fact that you are, and you are doing things differently. So what are you rebelling against with your Change Rebellion? What is it that you're trying to do differently?
So the key thing about rebelling is that I've worked in this industry for over 20 years. I've worked with and for consultancy practices. I've seen a machine develop. Change is not... I started out in a very small boutique consultancy, and when you're in a small boutique consultancy, certainly 20 years ago, it was discovery. We were, discovering ourselves, how we delivered, what worked, what didn't, and it was a really enjoyable time. Since then, it's become a beast. It's become a mechanism for just selling and profit. And it just I lost that passion with it. So I've basically gone, do you know what? I'm going to rebel against everything that it's become, this monster, that's been developed around deliverables and linear timelines. I'm going to rebel against all of that. And I'm going to go, no. Let's do something really different, really new. And there was a process to my thought. It wasn't kind of like an overnight thing, because I had to think about the solution. So what was I going to do that was going to make us different? What was I going to do that really stood out? And an example of that would be around social media. So I feel there's a great opportunity to bring social media into the mix. For most people, it's the norm. It's the daily norm. They look at things, certainly depending on generations. And so I introduced things like that. And I'm really, really passionate about change in its purity. It's about people, taking people and helping them transition. and there's a lot of waffle around that. My opinion, my humble opinion, and there's a lot of waffle, a lot of twaddle, a lot of stuff that has just been, as I say, created for money-making purposes. And actually, no, I want to be honest and open and transparent with people. My delivery model's about being transparent. It's plain, there's none of this, we could stick in some people here and do this and do that and then grow this. And no, it's like, I'm a professional in my field. I can understand your requirements by spending some time with you. Based on that, I can recommend. If you want to, awesome. If you don't, fair enough. So sorry, I tend to go off on a bit of.
I'm nodding away because you're preaching to the converted here. Is absolutely my view of change as well. I'm working with a client at the moment, and they've got a variety of change projects going on, and I'm involved on one. And I was in a meeting the other day, and we were sharing some comms from one of the other programs. And I tend to say things sometimes, that stuff slips out of my mouth, and I don't mean to. My husband says I haven't put my mental pampers on, and stuff leaks out. And I saw this stuff, and it was making it really complex. And I just said, oh my goodness, it's just such a load of guff. Just tell people what they need to be doing. Show them what they need to do. Not all this waffle around why you're doing it and why it's important and all that. And I think you're right. The whole of change management has become this huge industry of overcomplicating stuff and getting away from the fact that we just need to ask people what they need and then do that.
Yeah. And what is really frustrating is a lot of these people that want to hire these big consultancies and big corporates are the leadership that don't really know what they want. They just go, we need something different. We need to be new. We need to modernise. We need to introduce something. So they go, well, we know them. We've heard of them. And that's that. Somebody asked me, where do you want to be, in 10 years? And I don't want to conquer the world, but I would love it if my company was mentioned in the same conversations, just because it's more practical. It's more real for the people. But at the moment, as big consultancies dominate, I'm rebelling against that. I'm out to challenge it. And, and the good thing is, I presume if I was them, they'd just see me as a little fish in a very big pond. So I can kind of get away with saying most things. I'm planning on doing a post soon, just purely fun, poking fun, because one of those big corporates has been keeping a very close eye on me. And I'm going to do something funny around it, because why not? I'm sure I'm completely insignificant to them, but it's part of the fun and the game and the industry, and it's why be serious all the time?
Oh, I absolutely agree.
Yeah.
I should look forward to that, poking the beast. That would be
yeah. I'll be interested in the responses. It'll be either nothing, or we'll get some humour from it. But it's funny. I mean, I think there's almost enough room for all of us. There's that much change going on in the world. There's enough room for all of us. So, they're not worried about me. I'm not worried about them. You just get on and do your best.
I think you're absolutely right. And I think you can get quite scared sometimes if you look at the size of the field, or you go onto something like LinkedIn and you search for change management and there's millions of people and you sort of think, oh my goodness, there's no space. Now there is space, because there is something different and everyone has something different to offer. And I think particularly if you're clear about what that difference is, then the right people will come and find you. I really do believe that. And there will be organisations out there who do want to have exactly as you said, the kind of linear, processy change. And you wouldn't be for them, neither would I actually, but then you wouldn't want to work for them either. So
exactly.
It kind of sorts itself out, I think.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's in the same vein. So there are companies that I know don't have the same values and to a degree even morals as I do. So I wouldn't work with them. And I was asked this recently at a conference, is there anybody you wouldn't work with? And I'm like, yeah, I might be small, but I've got principles, I've got values. And if I don't feel like they'd be a great partner for me, then I will walk away or I won't work with them. And I think you have to do that. Even as a small independent, you have to do that. It's really important to keep your values and your ethos and your morals.
I think that's really good to have from the start, because I think a lot of people, myself included, when you start out, there is that fear of, oh, I'm never going to get any work and I'm just going to say yes to the first thing that comes along.
Yeah.
And that's fine. But at some point, you do have to be clearer about who you are and who you work with, and sort of filter things accordingly. And I think it's great if right from the beginning you can be really clear about, I don't want to work on this, I'm not going to do that, because it sometimes takes people a while to come around to that way of thinking.
Yeah. And don't get me wrong, I'm the same as everybody else. I need a job. I need to pay my bills. I've got a mortgage to pay. I've got a wife and 2 very expensive children. So, I need that. But I'm not going to go, there are certain industries that would go, we could take 10 people off you straight away. But I won't do, because I just know fundamentally the people wouldn't be happy. It wouldn't look great. It just, nothing about it would fit with us. So I just don't entertain those conversations. But then there are other companies that I am trying so hard to work with because they are just so perfectly aligned in terms of ethos and values. And I go, oh, I love what you're doing. Please come and have a bit of me. It doesn't always work that way, but I have those conversations. I start those conversations because I genuinely see, and I think the one most unexpected thing out of all of this is that, and I don't want to sound like big-headed or anything here. One of the nicest things that I never expected wasn't around change management. It was around, because I'm loud and I say what I think and I write things, I try and be funny, hopefully. People are like, how do you do that? How do you be different like that and stand out? And you can't really teach that. It's either you're gobby and annoying like me, or you're not, But the feedback I've had has been lovely, absolutely lovely. Some really, really nice people globally that have just taken 2 minutes to write to me, which has been fantastic.
Oh, that's so nice. And I do think in business, it's all a bit too serious sometimes. And I think it's nice to meet people and have people around who are not like that. And I think there's a big difference between not taking yourself seriously and not taking the job seriously. And it's something that I've been accused of before is I don't take things seriously. No, I do. I take my job very seriously. I don't take myself seriously, and there's a difference.
Yeah, I'm the same. I'm exactly the same. And I think that, I think that's a really great quality to have, that humility to be able to laugh at yourself. There's a couple of things that I really, really hate about our industry currently. So a couple of people that have reached out to me have gone, I've reached out to people in our industry, they've ignored me. That bugs me to hell. The other thing that really annoys me is almost a competitive, I don't want to say nastiness, but this real deep-seated competitiveness. And I don't think it's needed. We are in an industry that is about people. Surely we're working in this field because we're people. So there's certain things that annoy me. So I tend to distance myself from it, don't get involved with it, and just carry on doing, my thing in my corner.
It is very irksome when that happens, because I'm always introducing people to other people. It's just, there's plenty of work to go around. We don't need to hold on to things.
No,
there's plenty of things to share. And I agree with you. I think we need less competition and more openness and just, I don't know, but the focus on people. But I think, to your point, some change people are not people.
Yes, I concur. I concur with that. They're just not, and I don't, I can't understand that. I'm in this industry because that's the kind of person I am. Many years ago, when I first started out, I had 2 routes I could have gone. One was the project manager type route, and the other was change. And when I was told that change was all about people, boom, I knew where I needed to go. I never looked back. So, there are, and some of those people that aren't changey people or people, that's because their backgrounds aren't change. That's just not who they are. But they have seen an opportunity, or they've enjoyed it, because you can do that later in life, change your path because you enjoy something. Hell, I almost went into marketing.
You've been very good.
Thank you. A little bit of marketing, and people do go into it, and I get that, and that's wonderful. But yeah, I think you can tell a difference between somebody who's been change for years and then change for not quite as long.
I agree with you, and I see it in organisations sometimes that there's this kind of confusion about what change management actually is. And going back to your earlier point about leaders saying, well, we need to do something differently, let's do some change. And I think sometimes people don't get it. I worked on a project recently where I was with the people who were in the change team on this project. And actually, when they were talking about what they were going to be doing, it was just comms and training. That was it. It was, which is part of change, but isn't change. And I felt like the senior people in the organisation didn't really know what change was, and neither did the change people. It was just sort of planning and churning out documents, and actually that's part of it, but it's not it, is it?
Yeah, it's probably our least enjoyable part of it.
Indeed. not the project planning. I don't like that bit.
No, and I said that you can turn the tide of a program over a cup of coffee and a cake, and you genuinely can, in my opinion. And yet there are a lot of traditionalists that go, well, you need to produce this and you need to produce that. And I got asked a question recently about AI, and but I mean, I can't go into too much detail because it will spoil another podcast. But my feeling is, if I could have something, whether it was AI, to go, right, this person you're working with expects all these things over this time, and I could run reminders, run deliverables, and then you could focus on the people. That would be delightful. I mean, I would love something like that.
Please.
Yeah. This little calendar that you can see and you can show people, and it goes trigger here, trigger there, trigger. That'd be fantastic. So if anybody who watches this knows of that product, please reach out. I'm very interested.
Let's make this happen.
Absolutely. But I mean, I firmly believe you can with the right people, you can just change and make so much difference. It's interesting. I'm trying to apply these things through Change Rebellion. Some are easier than others. Introducing new ideas around social media and things like that is easy. When you're talking about moving away from evidence and basically why change management is there, that's harder to do, because those that don't understand it want to see the evidence, want to see data. Data drives me nuts. They talk so much about data, and I'm like, well, can you put analysis around how someone's feeling that day? And so that's what I'm rebelling against. And against all of that, I'm like, people-centric, people-focus. If you, there was a post recently that I signed off on for Change Rebellion that was around when you go to an away day and you're in a group, and that feeling of camaraderie, and you're having fun, you're doing tasks together, like, get that in everyday working life. That is brilliant stuff. If I could bottle that and go, right, here's your project, boom, there's a bottle of this, that's what I'd love to see. And that's what I really strive for, that where, you've got your Tom or Joanne, who's your CEO, and you've got your Bob or Jane, who's cleaner, and they're mixing together and they're working together to achieve a common goal. You go, yeah, can't you do that in the workplace? That's what you want. And that's what I strive for. So
I think you're right, though, because that is the difficult sell in some ways, because if people are uncertain about how to do things, there's sort of knee-jerk reactions to fall back on process, I think. Well, we need some qualified change managers. Let's have a look and see who's got Prince 2 and maybe ProSci and all of that. And there's nothing wrong with any of those things. But if that's what you're looking for in a change manager, it's a different set of skills. It's going back to your sort of program management, project management, change management. It's all part of the same continuum, but it's different aspects of it. And I think there is there's that sort of desire for the fix, isn't there? We need to fix this thing, and we're going to fix it by having someone come and present us with their linear approach. And if you do steps A, B, C, and D, outcome E will follow. And it's not like that. If you've worked in change for a year, that's not true, let alone 20. But how do we break away from that? How do we encourage people and clients to do things differently, to be brave?
Well, I mean, I don't know how we should do it as an industry. I know how I do it, how I approach it. And it's about, rebelling again and saying no. It's funny you mentioned about prosi, however you want to say it, because they're another beast that I like to poke occasionally, just for a bit of fun. Just for a bit of fun. They're big. They don't matter, because they dominate. I mean, I am actually envious and impressed with what they've done. So although I make fun and I do on a regular basis, I don't have any sort of hostility towards them. I think it's a wonderful thing. It's a great tool for certain people. Incredibly impressed with how they've become this go-to in the marketplace, particularly for recruiters. Globally, who go, yeah, if you've got that, we'll talk to you. I think that's a phenomenal thing. Fantastic marketing and business development. But yeah, in terms of changing how we do change, one step at a time. And I will always continue to champion that, let's take it back to its roots. Let's take it back to people. Let's move away from, and to be fair, I have to say, I think a large majority of clients that I'm speaking to currently, potential pipeline into next year, are going, we're sick of the old way. We're sick of the big consultancies coming in, selling us this linear timeline, all these deliverables, and actually our people haven't adopted, or they don't like, or they're not interested in, there's still that division between us, and it just doesn't work culturally, and it doesn't work in terms of whatever they're trying to achieve. So I feel quite hopeful that actually the more people that come out and shout about things like I do and go, no, none of that anymore, right? This is, let's be honest, let's be open. This is what you need, this is what I can give you, this is what will happen. I think the more people that do that, the better. Because I generally, so many clients that I've spoken to, never forget, I was with a client 3-4 years ago, sat down with a couple of them, and they said, what are you going to do? You're no different to the 20 people we've seen before you over the years that have come from consultancies, whatever. You're no different. And I said, right, okay, fair enough. I said, so I can't tell you, obviously, that I'm going to do this. I said, I'll just have to prove it to you. But then that's great. I like that. I like the fact I'll prove it then. If that's like a challenge to me, they threw down the flag or whatever, and I'm like, yeah, okay, fine. Let's do this. And I did, and I had a great time. It was really enjoyable. The relationships got stronger because I stopped trying to sell change management like a consultant would. And actually, I just got on with delivering it and going, yes, I know how you feel. Let's have a chat about that. Let's talk about that. Really emphasising the stakeholder engagement part, which is just critical. But yeah, I still fall in the trap of, people, as you said earlier, might confuse my jokiness and frivolity with not being professional, but actually you can do both. And I'm a firm believer in that. We spend the majority of our lives at work. So why not enjoy it? Why not try to enjoy it? It's going to be challenging, but I do feel like there's hope. I think clients are starting to realise they don't want it anymore. And more people like us are coming through and going, no, you don't need that.
I think someone said to me a while ago, I'm so bored of change management. It said, and I was like, yeah, I know, me too. The sort of the complexity of it, some of the big consultancies and others have an interest in making it complicated, so then everyone feels they can't do it, and I love what you're doing, the kind of simplicity of it. Just go and talk to people, for goodness sake. Do you actually know what people want? And I hear it over and over again, this kind of advocacy for change, this kind of, we've got to sell the change, we need to create some materials to sell the change. No, you don't. Find out what the issues are that people are facing and then just talk to them like a human.
Well, I think what big consultancies realised a long time ago was that leaders knew they were going to go through change, but they didn't know what they required to support that change. Mm-hmm. So big consultancies went, oh, you're a business leader, and you go into, we can, this is called change management. And that's what they've sold. And unfortunately, now we're left with a number of very significant individuals in industry that think they know what change management is, but actually they've been told by a big consultancy. So that expectation is already there. When you walk through the door, which I found particularly hard over the years, is you walk through the door and they go, oh, well, we have whoever in, and this is what they did. Are you going to deliver like that? And I'll probably go, no. I might do a few bits of that, but it's not really. And I think it's really, really difficult. And what you said there really resonated with me because about change management, somebody saying the board, that is where this all stems from. So my recent presentation at the ACMP was around the perception of change. And my perception of our industry changed hugely. So I went through something that was quite life-changing. And then when I came out the other side, I didn't feel the same way. And I looked at my industry, which I'd loved for 18, 19 years. I'd loved it. And all of a sudden I didn't love it anymore. And I was bored and it all looked the same. And you go online and it was like I was seeing the same thing written by 7 different people and they just changed a header. But it was all, predominantly around leadership. And it just all be there and nothing new was coming out. And, as I say, ProSci were dominating. You've got your others around APMG and ACP as well. But it was just all the same. And it took again another quite dramatic event for me to go, I can't do this anymore. I'm not enjoying it. I'd already drifted off. I mean, I was drifting off when I went on LinkedIn, a year ago, maybe a bit longer. All I was looking at was marketing companies, people in software who looked like they had a personality and were putting funny things on LinkedIn. All the things that I was getting drawn to, none of it was change management. I didn't see anybody in change management, being fun, silly, stupid, trying to engage with people in that manner. Now you see a lot of on LinkedIn, which I love. It's great. I think we should have more funny people in the world. And I'm still trying. So I just got to a point where it was going to be either I need to think about something else, and I had no idea what, or I need to change this for me to love it again. And that's why Change Rebellion came about. I've changed the game so that I love my industry again. I love what I'm doing again. And I feel passionate about it and just enthusiastic about it, probably annoyingly enthusiastic, but albeit enthusiastic. And I just want to drive really good change management and just take that different approach for people, so that any bad experience we've had go away and people go, right, okay, this is different. This is fun.
And I think that is a really key point, because that experience of change that people have had in the past, if you just go and do the same thing all over again, people go into it automatically thinking, well, it didn't work last time. They're not doing anything different this time, so the same thing will happen. And I think that is the key for me, is to show that if you are serious about doing change well and in a human-centered way, you need to show people in your organisation that you've learned lessons from the past, and this time you're going to do something that's different. And I think that's really important for people like you and I who are trying to do things a bit differently, is to say, well, you could do something differently, and it shows then that you've learned lessons from the past.
Yeah, 100%. And it's tricky because there's so many people that have expectations because of what's happened historically. And I get that, I really do. But I think I'm not, the other thing to sort of flip the coin really is I'm not trying to be purposely disruptive. Right? Some people try and be disruptive, and actually they just come across as being angry.
Yes. And they're usually really annoying, those sorts of people, in my experience.
I'm going to be disruptive. I'm not trying to be purposely disruptive. I'm trying to go, actually, there's a lot of good stuff. There are some core elements of change you have to do, right? We all have to do. We have to understand impacts. We have to make sure people are communicated and engaged with. There are core things. But why wrap that in it's like a kid's party with pasta parcel. So many deliverables in that parcel. Keep going. Yeah, there's another one. Can I have a matrix for that? Yeah. Can I have a list for that? Yeah. Can I have an Excel spreadsheet for that, please? Yeah. Okay. Get rid of all that. Keep the core fundamentals, but then throw in a load of fun stuff. Because there's nothing that brings people together and gets better results is if you get people together and create fun and enjoyment. And that is just, that for me is absolutely critical and hard to do, hard to achieve in organisations, because as soon as they hear that 3-letter word, fun, they're like, whoa, can I just call KPMG again, please?
We want less fun.
Yeah, we want less fun. We don't want to enjoy ourselves. How dare you? Be happy at work. Outrageous. So that's that. Yeah, for me, I'm not disruptive. I'm not argumentative. I'm not trying to, say you are doing it wrong. I'm saying you've got the core of it right, but let's do this around it. Let's make it more enthusiastic and enjoyable.
And I think it isn't about saying no to things that are done in different places. It's going yes and, I always say. So I'm not saying you can't have a project plan. If you want to have a Prince 2 project plan, you crack on. Don't expect me to do it because I don't know how and I don't want to. But, you do that. If you want to have your linear model of change, you do that too. But the stuff that I can offer can add to that and make it more effective. So I think that's the difference, isn't it? It's not saying you can't do this stuff. Do it. You crack on if that makes you feel better. But there needs to be that other bit. I was reminded when you were talking about fun of a client I had this years and years ago in the city, and he wouldn't allow the use of fun in the office. It was focused professional enjoyment.
Yeah. Dear me. So this is when people say about fun and bringing teams together. The one thing that sticks in my mind is I was working in Crawley with a client, and I'd arranged this workshop day. Do you know what we did? We made cheesecakes. So we got the base layer, ingredients, all the rest of it, blindfolded the first person, and then people would be in a queue, and they would put toppings on and decorate.
Wow.
And we had like a competition. But as I say, going back to what I said earlier, you've got the CEO with the cleaner. She's got her hands there. She's doing the cheesecake. And, and he's going, what's going on? I can't see anything. And it's brilliant. Bring people together. That is key. To making long-lasting change, you have to work collectively as an organisation. You can't have this, leadership told us to do it.
Yes.
I saw a chat recently, and he was explaining about this approaches his company has, where they go out and they do exactly that. They bring everybody together at all levels, and they go, okay, leadership, you want to move forward with something new. Great, you've chosen that. Now can you step away, please? Because all these people that's impact, they're going to make the decisions on how it gets rolled out, how they embed it. And it was like and that should happen more often, in my opinion.
Definitely.
So many things are leader driven. So the fact that this company did this, and I was like, I like that. I think I'm going to start using that. And they had a whole structure around it and a premise, and it was brilliant, absolutely brilliant. So every day's a school day.
That's the thing. You pick stuff up, don't you? I learn things from people all the time, and every person you meet, if they're doing interesting work in the field of change, then you think, oh, that's really good. Regularly on this podcast, I'll have a conversation with someone. You'll see me scribbling loads of notes, and I'm like, I'm going to use that in a conversation, and that's the joy of it, I think. And I think the point you were saying earlier about being bored of change management is one thing if our clients are saying that, but if we as change professionals are saying that we're finding it boring, that's a bad state of affairs for the industry, I think.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I think the other thing is it's become so competitive in the marketplace with people jumping ship from project management to change management, which doesn't always translate. If you're process driven, that's not a great direction to go. You need to be more people driven. And it's so difficult because I feel like those of us that have been doing this for a very long time and are 100% people, we're kind of fighting off from various directions. We're fighting the leadership expectations from their old engagements with consultancies. You're fighting the big consultancies because they're still going out and wanting to sell, which is understandable. Then you fighting, people who've just come into the change field. And I feel sorry for some of them because, for example, a good example in LinkedIn is you'll get somebody who's just come into the world of change, and they're not change managers. They're program project management, whatever, and they've come in and they'll stick a post on going 70% of. Yeah, you know where
I knew you were going to say that.
Right?
It makes me want to bang my head on the table.
But I genuinely, I'm guilty of this as well because I always comment, but they get annihilated.
Yeah.
All of us who've been doing this for so long, we go, oh, I'm on that. I need to.
By Susie Palmer True.
Well, Ron Lehman. I think there's I think there's a number of us. We just pounce on it. It's like we've been waiting for a month. Oh, there's another one. Yeah, I'm on that. But there are other instances, and that is when you can tell someone's come through and they want to join the cool club, and I get that. But they haven't engaged. And I've always said this, that the best way to get into our industry is by having a really good mentor, someone that's been there, seen it, done it, has the scars, and has been around for many years, because they can help you navigate through, the BS and all the rest of it, and get to a place where you could be a really good change manager. And I think that's vitally important.
I agree, and I think it's a challenge actually, because for a lot of change people, it's not, you don't always choose to do it. People end up doing it as a result of various career directions. Same is true for a lot of us, I would say, and I think it is a challenge. I do, every time I see one of those posts about 70% change, I'm like, will this ever end? I mean, are we ever going to get to a point where that post doesn't appear?
Oh, I know. It's there's a few. I did write a list, but there's a few. The 70% is probably the main one. But it's like at the moment, and as I said to you, I don't think it's a bad thing, but I kind of get bored with trends. So the big trend at the moment, obviously, is AI. Every other post is about AI, and it's great, and it has its uses. I was again asked at an event, and I probably didn't give the right answer, but I just gave my opinion. Is for me at the moment, until it's more developed, it's a great spell check and grammatical things I can check, because I have lots in the brain, as you can probably tell, but putting it down can sometimes be quite challenging, and a lot of it is very surreal and abstract anyway. So something like that to go, is the spelling in this correct? I love that, being able to do that. Saves me asking my wife. But I think then it gets too far, and then it's like every other post this is AI, and it's done this, and it can generate this. And for the average Joe who's working 9 to 5, we'll maybe play with it once a week, twice a week at most, and then we crack on with our jobs. So trends like that, at the moment, the other trend in our industry particularly is like, what does the future hold? It's like it'll hold exactly the same thing. It's just held for the last 5 years. It's not really going to change that much, if I'm honest, because it never does. And that's just the nature of our world and that we live in, and the humans as a species. It is just the way it is. That's why I love what I do, because it's constantly evolving, constantly changing. But I don't think there's going to be anything dramatic, in the next 5 years. How are we going to cope with the change that the meteorite's going to hit the planet and 90% of us will be wiped out? That's a challenge. That's different. But at the moment, so those posts kind of annoy me as well. People who, like I say, I don't know, say things for saying things' sake. Say it because you believe it. Say it because you're passionate in it. People can call me an idiot. I don't mind. They can say it's the ramblings of a crazy person. I don't mind. But at least I'm being me, and at least I'm trying.
Yeah, I agree. And I think at the end of the day, people are people, and people have always been people. It doesn't matter how complex the world is. Actually, basic human nature is the same as it's been for however many thousand years that we've been modern humans. It's one of the things when I'm talking about stories, which is obviously a big part of my work. Why I talk about that? Because this goes back thousands of years. The human brain hasn't changed that much. The stuff that appealed to us when we lived in a cave still appeals to us now. So stop making everything so complicated all the time. I got some artifacts from my mother quite some time ago before she passed away, and one of it was around my grandfather. And my grandfather was diligent in keeping a diary, and he always wanted to work.
Didn't matter what, he had 2 shops, like a doll's hospital and things like that. Anyway, when he was a young man, he got the opportunity to go to London. So he lived in Humberside, Grimsby. So, and he went to London. Massive deal back then. Obviously now it's you hop on the train and off you go. But back then, and he documented, and the things that he was taught about this business he was going to work for, the same things you get taught around now. He identified things that were like, oh, there's human behavior patterns and there's things to learn from this. And you should treat people this way because that gets this response and be like this. And it's like, that was, a long time ago. So no, we don't change much really in the business world. Everybody wants the latest thing. Everyone wants to keep up to date. I don't know about you, but I get a little bit frustrated with the posts about, which ERP and, this is doing this and they're doing that. And it's like, it's the same way I look at change models. None of them are perfect. No. They can all be useful. Do your due diligence, do your requirements, get it right, and off you go. It's not going to be perfect, but it's okay. And you get a lot of those. I get kind of bored with that, and I tend to write silly things under posts like that. But that makes it entertaining for me. Again, it's about that joy and that fun back into my industry again. Because I go, do you know what? As a change manager, I don't really care. You can analyse that depth, but there's so much to love about what we do because. My best memories are going through something, and regardless of what it is, you get to that end point and you're all worn and weary, but you're kind of just grateful to get to that end point and seeing people that you've engaged with go, oh, that's not too bad, or, that kind of scenario. And for me, that is why I do what I do.
I think that's wonderful. And it's a very good point to end on because I think that is what you want to get to. I'm working on a project at the moment and we presented a whole series of things that are going to happen. And at the end of the presentation, a whole load of people went, so actually not much is changing at all. And I don't feel too bad about that. And to me, that's the result. It's like that is as good as it gets. You're never going to get someone go, that's amazing. I'm so happy that everything's changing. But for someone to go, oh, I thought it would be worse.
Exactly.
Yes,
yeah.
I'm happy with that. That's a good outcome.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
It's been so wonderful talking to you today, Mark. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. If people want to find out more about what you're up to, where's the best place for them to take a look?
So we've got obviously my personal page on LinkedIn. We've got Change Rebellion on LinkedIn. And then if you actually want to find out more detail around the services we offer, changerebellion.com is the place to go.
Awesome. Thank you very much indeed. As ever,
my pleasure.
Enjoyed talking to you. It's been a lot of fun.
Thank you for letting me ramble on. Appreciate it.
This has been a Monkey Pants Productions podcast.